What's the one thing you regret doing for your wedding day? Registering for GD China. I didn't want it. Knew we would never use it. Received everything. Never have used it in 25 years. At this point, try just using it for mundane purposes. It's surprisingly fun to eat boring mundane things off of very expensive china. It's just sitting gathering dust. So use it for fun. My number one regret is telling people not to take pictures. I know it sounds dumb, but it is much worse than that. In our agreement with our photographer, she told us that other cameras were not allowed as the flash from another camera could ruin our pictures. So we politely told people to refrain from taking pictures and explained the situation. We had a great wedding and the photographer even sent an extra photographer to work the wedding, 2 instead of 1. A few weeks after we tried contacting her for the photos, we got ghosted. We tried for about a year to track her down. We were still willing to pay for the photos, even unedited. We just wanted the photos. Fortunately, some people didn't get the message, so we have a few 10-20 photos from our wedding. The worst part was that someone had contacted my wife through FB 2 weeks before the wedding warning us about her, but we decided to take the risk because there probably was no way to get another photographer in that kind of time. Letting my mother-in-law have any say in anything. She ruined the food. Not having our grandmas as flower girls. We didn't have anyone to be flower girls. And I didn't think of asking grandmas until way after the wedding. Having an outdoor wedding in August in South Carolina. Timing necessitated it. Otherwise, I love my wedding and love my wife. Not having a good breakfast. We got married early in the day on a beach and all I could think about was how much I wanted a breakfast sandwich with eggs, cheese, and bacon on a toasted English muffin with just a touch of hot sauce. Paper invitations and RSVPs. Set up a wedding site and have people RSVP there. The amount of stress I put myself through trying to get paper mailed back to me in an era when no one uses mail anymore was so unnecessary. At one point we'd gotten very few RSVPs back and I had a total crying meltdown about how no one was going to come. Of course they were going to come. It's just no one uses mail anymore. Save yourself the headache and the money. It's my biggest wedding regret. This will sound petty, but I regret wearing my hair up. It felt so unlike me and the sticky layers of hairspray wouldn't brush out when I got undressed that night. My wife was still finding pins in her hair 3 days later. I bet you looked great though. I've been married for 16 years now, so this is a little old school. We bought a bunch of disposable cameras and set them all over the place at our reception with a note on them that said take some pictures. At the end of the night we collected all the cameras and had the film developed. Most of them turned out really cool and we got some pictures we would have never thought of taking. The regret comes in me underestimating some of my friends' ability to be adults for one night and ended up with a lot of dick pics also. Lol. I'm guessing a lot of people getting married today could just set up our Instagram account and just have everyone upload cell pics to it. Not taking a picture. We just did a quick wedding for legal purposes with my friend presiding and aunt and uncle as witnesses. It was a nice little sweet ceremony that lasted about 10 minutes over a nice area with a view before we went to dinner. Didn't realize we hadn't taken any pictures until like a week later when we wanted to show someone. Whoops. Making cupcakes instead of buying a cake. We did a lot of DIY, made the beer and meat for toasts. Assembled flowers and centerpieces, because it was cheaper, but also we like making things. But the cupcakes, in retrospect, were a ton of work and not that great. I regret the coordinator they gave us for the ceremony. Dude got flustered and started second guessing everything right before the ceremony. Like he somehow forgot how a wedding works at the last moment. When all of our guests were there. OMG, what song do you want to play while she walks down the aisle? I dunno dude. The one everyone walks down the aisle to. The wedding song. The one we already told you to play. I ended up taking charge and sorting everything out. Really wish I could have just gone with the flow on my big day. Not preparing a speech. I thought I'd just go up, thank everyone for coming and sit back down. Short and sweet. Get it out the way. That's exactly what I did. Without mentioning my parents or my wife. Inviting people I didn't really want to invite. They just cost you money. You don't interact with them at all. And they usually don't bring a nice gift to make up for it. Except for letting all of the divorced aunts and uncles bring plus ones. Because that led to a whole jealousy competition train that was extremely entertaining. Gave a heartfelt speech that ended with a joke. The punchline being, and your presence here means almost as much as the envelopes you brought with you. Crickets. I still cringe. So the one thing I'm wicked glad we did and always advise people to do is take a moment to enjoy it. After we ate and went around saying hi to all the tables, we took like 5 minutes. While everyone else was finishing dinner. And went and sat outside. The preacher started coaching me on what's next as my gorgeous bride-to-be was walking down the aisle. I did not get to take in what was the most beautiful woman I ever saw walk down the aisle because I was trying to pay attention to what he was saying. My preacher made me tear up. He kept whispering at me while at the altar. Look at her. Right now she's the most beautiful woman in the world and you get to spend the rest of your life with her. You are a lucky man. By the time she made it to the altar, she saw me about to weep like a schoolgirl and had no clue why. There were a couple people that we decided to not invite. More accurately, we needed to cut a few after booking the hall and realizing how many we could fit in the room. I didn't realize how hurt those few people would be. They brought it up years later. I still feel bad about it. My wife's uncle and his wife are horrible people and they brought people that weren't even invited and basically forced them into their already full table. It was awkward. I regret inviting them and not inviting the hurt friends that I mentioned above. Not hiring a photographer. We thought we'd save money and just ask friends to take lots of pictures. They took some, but I have maybe 5 pictures worth looking at. No pictures of the cake or table settings. I kind of remember what they look like. The only decent pic of my husband and I has our flower girl in it. She's sweet and I love her. But it looks like she's our kid. Every time people see the photo they're like, I didn't know you had an older child. Hire a photographer, people. Not paying attention to the photographer more. We gave him a list of things he needed to shoot for portraits. And he forgot to get a picture of me, my wife, and my parents. What in hell did he shoot? The shadowy face of God? My dress. I knew what I wanted, but I just went with something on sale even though I felt uncomfortable in it. I wish I had been a little more pushy on what I wanted to wear. And I wish we hadn't included my husband's siblings as they are awful people. After the wedding we went to our reception. The wedding party, etc. Had their own theme songs to come out to. Then comes out my wife and I. We had a few drinks in us by this point. We were supposed to do a whole dance entrance type of thing. I can't dance, so I got nervous and reverted to grinding my wife in front of 300 people. That was the most cringe-worthy moment of my life, lol. Renting a nice room in a fancy hotel. And then expecting to have sex when we were both just absolutely f***ing exhausted. Don't get me wrong. My wedding day was possibly the best day of my entire life. But it would have been just the teensiest bit better if we'd gotten some charming bed and breakfast and not forced ourselves to have tired sex at like 1 in the morning. Turns out fancy ass hotel rooms are basically just like a clean version of non-fancy ass hotel rooms. Not that my poor ass would have known that beforehand. The trick is to sneak away and FCK during your wedding. I really wish we had the ceremony videotaped. We spent a decent chunk of money on the photographer. And our photos look great. We didn't think we wanted a video at the time. But a year and change later I really wish we did. Not paying for a cleaning company at my venue. My wife and wedding party had to still 2 hours later to clean up to get our deposit back. Edit. Holy hell, this kind of blew up. To go in a little further, me and my wife got married through a venue company that owned a few venues throughout the area. This one happened to be a restored barn. The company allowed us to either pay a $400 or something. It was a few years ago, cleaning deposit, or to pay a $200 or something cleaning fee. The deposit was refunded depending on how well you cleaned up after. To save more money for the honeymoon, we chose deposit, and us and the wedding party stayed 2 hours later to clean up the venue. I don't know if this was a US thing, only really looked at the one venue and my wife fell in love with it. The $200 cleaning fee was so they could pay another company to clean. My husband and I surprised people with our wedding. We invited his parents, my parents, and a few friends over for dinner and announced we were getting married. I don't regret any of that. What I do regret is allowing his mother in the bathroom with me while I finished getting ready. She spent a good 30 minutes telling me how I was ruining her son's life because I can no longer have children. I was so badly shaken by all of the bullshit that when it came time for I said yeah. Sure. I guess. What a bitch. Hiring my wife's friend as the DJ. We gave him simple cues and songs, which he completely f***ed up, and then went on to play Hindi dance music for the Indian segment of the dancing instead of Bhangra as very explicitly instructed. Worst of all, our first dance was to that TTY song from Ghost instead of Dance Me to the End of Love as requested. FCK that guy. Edit. Just to clarify, the guy was a professional DJ, but not usually, ever, a wedding DJ. It's a very different skill set. Edit 2. I should also add, the one thing he didn't FCK up was my Walking Down the Aisle song, which was the Curb theme song. I actually just popped in here to read all the comments and to say thanks to the OP for posting this. As someone with a very nervous bride-to-be, this list will help me to get some focus on things I may have not thought about or put much weight into. Thanks OP. And to everyone who posted here. Not hiring an Elvis impersonator. Flew all the way to Vegas to get married. Didn't get Elvis. Oh well. Edit. Welsh this blew up. Thanks everybody. This is now my most upvoted thing, which is insane. For your information, for those wanting to elope to Vegas, it is super fun and I would not talk anyone out of it. I will say that we were married at the Luxor Chapel, which was very nice and the officiant was really great. We would have had to go find our own Elvis officiant, hire them, and then pay the chapel to use the room. So it didn't make sense. BTW, you can have an amazing time in Vegas without spending a ton of money. Edit 2. The wife and I have plans to renew our vows on our 10th anniversary and do a small but decent wedding. We can finally afford to get her a dress and a venue and all that. So that's what we'd like to do. We're at 2 years now. I regret not hiring a videographer. We have pictures, but it would be nice to watch a video even of just the ceremony on our anniversary. I wish I had walked slower down the aisle to my, now, husband. My dad and I both naturally take long strides when we walk. So what was supposed to be a 1-2 minute long walk of suspense turned into a brisk 20-30 second stroll. Inviting 75% of the people, most of them I never see and are not involved in our lives, have rather spent the same amount of money on 25% of the people and had one hell of a high-end party. We eloped and I don't regret that at all. When my husband and I were in our B&B room having our own personal champagne toast, I was recording it with my phone and I recorded it in vertical instead of horizontal orientation. When I uploaded it to the computer and created a whole photos video thing with footage from our ceremony, it totally ruined the aesthetic. This is my greatest regret. My biggest regret is that it all felt so rushed. We were engaged on May and got married at the end of August, having settled on a date in May. The summer was a whirlwind of planning while both of us worked full-time jobs. We got married on a Sunday. In a city, Montreal, 6 hours from where we lived, Toronto. We both worked the previous Friday and were back home on Monday to leave for our honeymoon on the Tuesday, which involved a lot of driving around. and then jumping back into the grind pretty much the day after we returned. In short, I would have taken a few days off work to relax and get into the holy shit I'm about to get married headspace. And I would have opted for a more relaxing honeymoon. We had lovely little wedding. Small. Inexpensive. Informal. Fun. Yet I totally regret not taking it more seriously and investing more time and money in it. I guess we were so put off by all the crazy, intense, expensive weddings we had been to in our lives. We went too far in the other direction. We had been together for 8 years at that point and didn't think marriage was going to change anything, and even having a wedding at all seemed a little silly at the time. But in the end, we realized what a beautiful, intimate thing it was. How much better it could have been. And how many more people that we love we could have shared it with. It's a great story to tell people you got married for $400 in someone's backyard. Wearing a $90 dress tie with sharks all over it. With 12 close friends and family members, and then had pigs in blankets with prosecco. But I don't think it is nearly the rich memory and special time it could have been for us. We were a little too cool for school on this one. Finally, a post I can comment on. Shave my beard. FCK. Right before our first dance I got nervous about dancing in front of a crowd due to a middle school dance trauma. And I'm not proud to admit, I shit my pants. Full blown nervous and blast. Like a fire hose attached to a tank of chocolate pudding. My bride found me hiding in a toilet stall and had to fetch me new pants. I still can't look her brother square in the eye, and no, he didn't go pantsless for the rest of the wedding. With my wedding in a little over a week, I'm not sure this is the best thread for me to read. EHH. FCK it. Edit. Thanks for the tips. Guys. We will absolutely try to focus on each other. It'll probably be hard. What with everyone that'll be present, but it's something we're both looking forward to. Also, I am the groom, haha. Edit 2. Whoa. Wasn't expecting this to be gilded. This is it. I peaked. Time to mess around with the new features. Drinking too much the week before. Not just having 2 photographers. FCK the one my mill hired. Our pictures look like shitty. Not exactly a regret, cause we ended up enjoying our day out. Originally my husband and I wanted to elope abroad with just our parents and have a holiday out of it. Being from a large Irish family, this went down like a ton of bricks and caused massive arguments. So we compromised, which did upset and annoy me a lot at the time, and ended up having a wedding in Ireland. Neither hometown, just somewhere in the middle, but only immediate family came, so ended up being 28 of us and we had a lovely day. However, both of us still have relatives that refused to speak to us because they weren't invited and couldn't understand why we only wanted something small. All of them presumed it was money related, which it completely was not. Just neither of us are fussy and don't like that much attention. That was 2 years ago. We aren't bother. They showed their true colors. Anyway. Like I said, not a regret but a little annoyed we had to compromise in the first place. Haven't gotten married yet. But one thing people forget is that they are actually supposed to enjoy their wedding. I've been to a couple weddings. And in most of them the bride and groom are running like chickens without heads. Trying to make everything perfect. Your wedding is supposed to be the best day of your life. Not a miserable event. Don't get stressed over the little things and enjoy yourself. I'm getting married in January. And a lady at my parish cornered me and my fiancé recently and told us to remember to enjoy our wedding day and to make sure we eat the food. She volunteered to be the person to get us privacy when we need it. Basically, if we want to eat or need a 10-minute break, we let her know and she'll guard our table and let us have a few minutes to just rest. Inviting my boss to the wedding and letting him push my dad down the aisle. My boss was never the brightest guy. And not everyone liked him. My dad has trouble walking. So he's in a wheelchair. I let my boss push him down the aisle just because it would get me 6 weeks off for my honeymoon. And it was a train wreck. He acted as if he was most important because he got to push my father down the aisle. Our unexpected edifice.